Tooth Fairy's First Night, written by Anne Bowen and published by Carolrhoda Books. For as long as she could remember, Sally wanted to be a tooth fairy, just like her mama and grandma and great-grandma before her. On the night of her 7th birthday, Mama presented Sally with her very own tooth fairy purse. "Tonight you must get your first tooth," said Mama. "With that first tooth you will become an official tooth fairy," said Grandma. "We know you will follow in the tradition of all great tooth fairies," Great-Grandma told her. Sally flittered. She fluttered. She wrapped her wings around herself in one big hug. "I will be the best tooth fairy in the world," she promised. "Remember, a good tooth fairy is always patient," said Mama. "A good tooth fairy always looks on the bright side of things," said Grandma. "A good tooth fairy always gets her tooth," said Great-Grandma. "And don't forget," they called as Sally flew into the night, "you must never, ever wake a sleeping child." Sally's first tooth belonged to Miranda K. Michaels. Her tooth had fallen out just that morning, right after biting into a taffy doodle at recess. When Sally arrived at Miranda K.'s house, she wriggled through a crack beneath the front door and sat down in the darkness to catch her breath. She pulled out her flashlight and map, searching for Miranda's room. "It should be down the hall, last door on the left," Sally whispered. "Now I just need to find that tooth and I'll be on my way." Slowly, carefully, Sally reached beneath Miranda K.'s pillow. "Oh no," Sally thought. "What is this?" Sally pulled out a pink envelope and she read the letter inside. "Dear Tooth Fairy, my friend Emily says you are not real, but my friend Sam says you are. He saw you once flying out his bedroom window. I want to know who is right, so I am hiding my tooth in a very secret place, a place only a smart tooth fairy can find. Yours truly, Miranda K. Michaels." Sally's lip quivered. It trembled. Mama and Grandma and Great-Grandma never said anything about a letter. A tiny tear trickled down her cheek. Sally blew her nose and whispered, "A good tooth fairy is always patient. I am a good tooth fairy. I will find that tooth." And then Sally noticed another piece of paper tucked inside the pink envelope. "Dear Tooth Fairy, here's your first clue. This place is your size, but too small for me. You can eat cherry cupcakes while sipping hot tea." Sally thought and thought, and then she thought harder. "Oh, a dollhouse!" Sally spotted a house just her size beneath the window. Inside, she flew up the stairs and down, fluttering from one room to the next. At last, in the kitchen, Sally found what she was looking for. Tiny chairs around a tiny table, set with tiny cups and a teapot. Inside one of the cups was another note, but no tooth. Sally's lip, it quivered, it trembled, and then she read the note. "Dear Tooth Fairy, quarters, pennies, nickels, dimes are dropped in here for spending times." Sally took a deep breath and whispered, "A good tooth fairy always looks at the bright side of things. I am a good tooth fairy and I will find that tooth." Sally thought and thought, and then she thought harder. "A piggy bank!" Sally spotted a pink pig in the corner of Miranda Kay's room. "This is going to be tight," she said as she squeezed down inside the pig. Sally stumbled about in the dark, bumping her shins on several coins until she remembered her flashlight. The light brightened the inside of the pig, making all the pennies, nickels, and dimes shimmer. Beneath a 50-cent coin, Sally found another note, but no tooth. This time, Sally's lower lip didn't quiver. It didn't tremble, not even once. "A great tooth fairy always gets her tooth," she whispered, "and I'm not leaving until I get mine." She read the note. "Dear Tooth Fairy, inside your pouch, all soft and furry, you will find my tooth, so you must hurry." Sally thought and thought, and then she thought harder. A kangaroo! Sally looked around the room, and there on Miranda Kay's bed were stuffed animals everywhere. Right in the middle of all those animals was Miranda Kay, sound asleep. "A good tooth fairy never ever wakens a sleeping child," Sally reminded herself. Sally flew from one animal to another, a black bear, 3 tiny mice, a brown rabbit, but there was no kangaroo. Sally plopped down on the pink nose of a cat to rest her wings and to think. Suddenly the cat's whiskers twitched. With one swipe of its paw, the cat sent Sally flying up into the air. She fell down onto Miranda Kay's pillow, right next to Miranda Kay's nose. Ooh. Snort, sniffle, snuffle, snored Miranda Kay. Sally held her breath. "Please don't wake up." Sally crawled beneath the blankets, and there, snuggled against Miranda Kay, was a soft gray kangaroo. Slowly, carefully, Sally reached inside the tiny pouch of the kangaroo. And there it was, Miranda Kay's tooth. Sally flittered. She fluttered. A good tooth fairy always gets her tooth. Now I really am a tooth fairy. Sally placed something special beneath Miranda Kay's pillow. Then she flew into the night with her first tooth tucked inside her purse. Early the next morning, when Miranda Kay woke up, she reached under her pillow and she found a note. "Dear Miranda Kay, yes, I am really real and I can prove it. I hid your surprise in a very secret place. Here's your first clue."